Will Smith was never supposed to wear that black suit. The script was rewritten while cameras were rolling. The director almost walked off set. The main villain was completely redesigned 3 weeks into production. And the ending you remember? It didn't exist until 72 hours before the film was locked. Men in Black wasn't a triumph of Hollywood planning. It was a masterclass in controlled chaos. Behind the sunglasses and the slick one-liners was a production held together by improvisation, desperation, and a series of accidents that somehow created something iconic. Studio executives called it unreleasable after early screenings. The two leads refused to speak off camera for a month. 7 of the film's most expensive props were stolen and never recovered. And one scene was filmed illegally in the middle of Manhattan because the budget had completely collapsed. These aren't DVD bonus features. These are the buried stories of a film that stumbled, crashed, and nearly burned before accidentally becoming a phenomenon. 20 secrets that reveal how close Men in Black came to being a disaster nobody remembers instead of a classic everyone quotes. Let's start with the casting nightmare that changed everything. Fact 1. Chris O'Donnell was cast as Agent J and quit 14 days before filming. Chris O'Donnell had completed costume fittings, table reads, and weapons training for Agent J when he walked away from the production 2 weeks before cameras rolled. His agents had convinced him that playing another sidekick, after Robin in Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, would permanently typecast him and destroy his trajectory toward leading man status. Columbia Pictures had no backup plan. They had pursued O'Donnell exclusively for 8 months, never seriously considering alternatives. When he quit, the studio scrambled through every young actor in Hollywood. David Schwimmer declined to stay committed to Friends. Matthew Perry passed for identical reasons. Brendan Fraser was locked into another project. Will Smith wasn't on anyone's list. Columbia executives specifically thought he was too comedic, too associated with television, too risky for a film that needed to balance humor with genuine sci-fi stakes. Smith's agent forced the issue by calling Columbia directly and demanding an audition. Smith flew to New York on his own dime, walked into the room wearing a black suit he'd purchased specifically for the meeting, and improvised the entire attitude that became Agent J's signature. Director Barry Sonnenfeld was convinced immediately. Columbia had no alternatives and no time. Smith was offered the role with a 48-hour deadline. He signed immediately, transforming a casting disaster into the performance that defined the film. Fact 2. Tommy Lee Jones refused to speak to Will Smith off camera for the first month. Tommy Lee Jones employed a method acting technique that genuinely confused and hurt his co-star. For the first 4 weeks of filming, Jones refused all friendly interaction with Smith. No lunch together, no small talk between takes, no socializing whatsoever. When Smith attempted jokes or conversation, Jones would stare silently and walk away. Crew members grew concerned that the two leads genuinely disliked each other. Smith later described feeling confused and somewhat wounded by Jones's coldness, uncertain whether he'd done something offensive. Jones never explained his approach to anyone, including director Sonnenfeld. He wanted Smith to feel like a rookie being dismissed by a veteran, exactly the dynamic between Agent J and Agent K. The awkwardness in Smith's early scenes wasn't performed. It was authentic discomfort from an actor uncertain why his co-star seemed to despise him. After 4 weeks, Jones invited Smith to dinner and revealed his strategy. The emotional distance couldn't be faked, he explained. It had to be real to read on camera. Once Smith understood, the two developed genuine friendship. But those first weeks of uncomfortable authenticity became the foundation of their on-screen chemistry. Fact 3. The entire Bug character was redesigned 3 weeks into production. The original Edgar the Bug was a traditional insectoid creature with a hard exoskeleton and multiple compound eyes. Industrial Light and Magic had spent $2.3 million developing the design, building animatronic components, and programming digital effects. Vincent D'Onofrio had trained for weeks to move like an insect based on that specific creature. 3 weeks into filming, Sonnenfeld watched the daily footage and realized the design wasn't working. It wasn't scary enough to be threatening or strange enough to be funny, just generic in a way that would disappear from memory. Sonnenfeld halted production and demanded a complete redesign, and the new concept transformed the Bug into something wearing a human body like an ill-fitting suit, a creature that moved wrong and looked almost right, but remained fundamentally disturbing. ILM had 9 days to create new designs, animatronics, and digital models. Over 80 artists worked around the clock. D'Onofrio had to completely relearn his performance. His weeks of insect movement training became useless overnight. The redesign added $4.7 million to the budget and caused 12 days of production delays. The new design became iconic. The original would have been forgettable. Fact 4. Will Smith improvised the entire intergalactic Kegger scene. The scene where Agent J confronts the dying Arquillian prince wasn't scripted. But the original screenplay contained one functional line: "We need to find the galaxy." Sonnenfeld felt the scene lacked urgency and told Smith to make it more intense. Smith took that direction and improvised a 3-minute rant that included "Intergalactic Kegger, Elvis is dead, he passed away," and the escalating desperation about Earth's destruction. None of these phrases existed in Ed Solomon's screenplay. The script supervisor eventually stopped trying to track Smith's dialogue because he'd abandoned the written material entirely. This created an immediate problem. Tommy Lee Jones had memorized specific responses to scripted dialogue. When Smith improvised completely different statements, Jones had to abandon his prepared lines and react authentically in real time. His visible processing, genuinely figuring out how to respond, became part of the scene's effectiveness. Columbia executives initially demanded the scripted version be used, arguing they'd paid writers for specific dialogue. Sonnenfeld fought them by screening both versions for studio heads. The improvised version tested 37% higher with audiences and won approval unanimously. Reshooting surrounding scenes to match Smith's improvisation added over $200,000 to the budget. The sequence became one of the film's most memorable moments because Smith ignored everything he was supposed to say. Fact 5. The Neuralizer props cost $47,000 each, and 7 were stolen. Columbia commissioned 15 working Neuralizer props from prop master Randy Erickson. Each device contained functional LED technology, motorized components, and precision engineering that justified the $47,000 per unit cost. The total Neuralizer investment approached $750,000. 7 Neuralizers disappeared during production in 3 separate theft incidents. The first theft took 3 devices from a locked prop truck during New York location filming. Security footage showed someone with set access entering during a lunch break, but the culprit was never identified. The second incident saw 2 Neuralizers vanish from Sony Studios' prop department in Los Angeles. An internal investigation suggested inside involvement, but produced no charges. 2 more disappeared during the final week of filming, prompting Columbia to hire private security specifically for the remaining props. And all 7 stolen Neuralizers surfaced on the collector market within months, selling for between $80,000 and $120,000 each. Columbia pursued legal action against multiple collectors, but won only 2 cases. The studio spent over $300,000 on investigations, legal fees, and replacement props. The Neuralizer thefts remain one of Hollywood's most expensive unsolved prop crimes. Fact 6. Rip Torn was arrested. During production and filming, continued around his court dates, Rip Torn was arrested for drunk driving during the 4th week of production after crashing his vehicle into a production truck on his way to set. He spent 8 hours in custody before Columbia's lawyers arranged bail and negotiated reduced charges. The arrest created a scheduling nightmare, and Torn was legally required to attend court hearings and alcohol education classes throughout the remaining production schedule. Every filming day had to accommodate his legal obligations. Sonnenfeld's solution was restructuring Zed's role entirely. Scenes that would normally be distributed across weeks were compressed into marathon 4-day shooting blocks, where Torn worked 12-hour days to complete all his footage between court appearances. The character ended up with fewer scenes, but longer individual takes. Columbia's publicity department buried the story by offering entertainment media exclusive interview access to Smith and Jones in exchange for suppressing coverage of Torn's arrest. The strategy worked. Most outlets never reported the incident until Torn revealed details in his 2007 autobiography. So rescheduling around Torn's legal issues added 19 shooting days and approximately $870,000 in overtime costs. The studio considered replacing him, but his completed footage was strong enough that executives decided the expense was worthwhile. Fact 7. The MIB headquarters set was built inside a collapsing airplane hangar. The massive MIB headquarters was constructed inside an abandoned hangar at the former Tustin Marine Corps Air Station in California. 3 weeks into filming, structural engineers discovered the 1942-era hangar's roof was deteriorating far worse than previous inspections had indicated. indicated. They calculated a 40% chance of catastrophic collapse within 3 months. Production was evacuated immediately. The headquarters set had cost $6.2 million to build, and moving it would cost $4 million and require 6 weeks. Reinforcing the existing hangar would cost $2.8 million and take 4 weeks. Columbia chose reinforcement. Over 200 construction workers installed steel support columns throughout the hangar while filming continued around them. Several scenes actually contained these support beams in the background, digitally removed in post-production. During the final week of filming in that location, a section of roof partially collapsed at 3 in the morning. The production had wrapped in that space just 11 hours earlier. If the collapse had occurred during the shooting, dozens of people could have been killed. Columbia quietly moved remaining scenes to a soundstage and demolished the hangar immediately after production wrapped. The near disaster was never publicized. Fact 8. Vincent D'Onofrio gained 50 pounds for the role and had a cardiac scare. Vincent D'Onofrio wanted Edgar's human host body to appear swollen and uncomfortable as the alien grew inside. He consumed approximately 10,000 calories daily for 8 weeks before filming began, gaining 50 pounds specifically for the role. During the 3rd week of production, D'Onofrio experienced chest pains and shortness of breath during an action sequence. The set medic called an ambulance immediately. D'Onofrio was hospitalized for observation, with initial fears of a heart attack. Tests revealed he hadn't suffered cardiac arrest, but the rapid weight gain had elevated his blood pressure to dangerous levels. Physicians recommended he lose the weight immediately and withdraw from the film, a warning that continuing could cause permanent heart damage. D'Onofrio refused. The production was compromised by hiring a full-time cardiac nurse to monitor his vitals between every take. He was placed on blood pressure medication and a medically supervised diet designed to slowly reduce his weight while maintaining visual continuity. D'Onofrio's medical care and the delays from his hospitalization added approximately $340,000 to the budget. After filming wrapped, losing the weight took 11 months. He later described the physical transformation as the most dangerous thing I've ever done as an actor. Fact 9. The original actress playing Laurel quit because of Will Smith's improvisation. Linda Fiorentino wasn't the first choice for medical examiner Laurel. She wasn't even the second. The role was originally filled by another actress who filmed for 2 weeks before quitting the production entirely. The departure stemmed directly from Smith's improvisational approach. The original actress had trained in traditional methods, memorized scripts, precise blocking, rehearsed timing. Smith's freestyle performance made every take different. She reportedly complained to Sonnenfeld that Smith's improvisation was unprofessional and made her appear stiff by comparison. Sonnenfeld sided with Smith, arguing the spontaneity improved the film. The actress issued an ultimatum. Either Smith stops improvising or she walks. The production refused to restrict Smith's creative freedom. She left, and Columbia had to find a replacement immediately for 14 already filmed scenes. Fiorentino was working on another project when her agent called about the emergency opening. She met Sonnenfeld on Friday, was offered the role Saturday, and filmed her first scene Monday. She had 1 weekend to prepare. Rather than fighting Smith's improvisation, Fiorentino matched it. When he went off script, she improvised right back. Their chemistry worked specifically because both were making it up. All previous footage was scrapped at a cost of $1.2 million. Fact 10. The pug named Frank was actually 7 different dogs. No single pug could perform everything the Frank character required. 7 different dogs were trained for specific skills, with handlers swapping them between takes depending on what each scene demanded. The first dog handled sitting and basic positioning. The second did walking and running shots. And the third had the most expressive face and was used exclusively for close-ups. The fourth had been trained to hold objects in his mouth for the smoking scene. The fifth performed talking scenes with animatronic attachments. Dogs 6 and 7 served as backups when others were tired or uncooperative. Continuity became a nightmare. The 7 dogs had slightly different facial markings, varied in weight by up to 3 pounds, and held their ears differently. A dedicated makeup artist worked exclusively on making the pugs look identical on camera. Each dog required its own handler, trainer, and veterinary supervisor present on set daily. The animal handling budget for Frank alone reached $378,000. After release, and all 7 pugs were adopted by crew members, creating an ongoing joke about which dog was the real Frank. Multiple legal disputes followed as various people claimed ownership of the authentic movie dog. Fact 11. Danny Elfman's score was composed while he was simultaneously scoring another film. Danny Elfman accepted the Men in Black assignment despite being contractually committed to scoring Mars Attacks for Tim Burton during the same period. He attempted to compose both orchestral scores simultaneously, splitting his days between completely different musical universes. The arrangement collapsed within weeks. Burton complained that Mars Attacks themes sounded inappropriately comedic, contaminated by Men in Black's lighter tone. Simultaneously, Sonnenfeld felt the Men in Black score was too dark and bombastic, influenced by Mars Attacks' science fiction horror sensibility. Elfman ultimately prioritized Mars Attacks due to his longer collaboration with Burton. His Men in Black work became rushed, with several cues recycled from compositions originally written for other projects. The main theme was completed in approximately 11 hours during an overnight session after Sonnenfeld rejected 2 previous attempts. Critics praised the score without knowing it represented Elfman working under impossible conditions, sleeping approximately 4 hours nightly for 6 weeks, while producing material he later described as adequate but not my best. The exhaustion of double-duty composition was invisible in the final product. So fact 12. The alien autopsy scene used real cow organs and made the crew vomit. The autopsy scene where Laurel examines an alien body used genuine cow organs purchased from a slaughterhouse. Sonnenfeld wanted authentic visceral reactions from his actors, so the special effects team bought fresh intestines, stomach, liver, and lungs, then modified them with prosthetics and slime to appear extraterrestrial. The smell of decomposing organs under hot studio lights became overwhelming. Multiple crew members vomited during filming. The soundstage was evacuated twice for ventilation because people were becoming physically ill. Linda Fiorentino, who had to handle the organs directly, required a medical mask with mentholatum to block the smell. Sonnenfeld wanted authentic squelching sounds, so sound designers recorded Fiorentino actually cutting into real organs with surgical tools. Every wet, visceral noise audiences hear is genuine. Using real animal organs on a film set required health department approval and special waste disposal permits. The production hadn't obtained these permits. When Los Angeles County health inspectors learned about the cow organs through an anonymous complaint, they fined Columbia $73,000 for improper handling of biological material. The soundstage required professional sanitization costing $42,000 because the smell had permeated the walls and couldn't be removed through normal cleaning. On fact 13, Steven Spielberg demanded his name be removed after seeing the first cut. Steven Spielberg had brought the Men in Black comic to Columbia and served as executive producer. After watching the first cut, he demanded his name be removed from all credits entirely. He told Sonnenfeld the film was too jokey and didn't take its material seriously enough. Spielberg had envisioned Men in Black as a serious science fiction thriller with comedic elements, tonally similar to Jaws or Close Encounters. Sonnenfeld had delivered a straight comedy with sci-fi elements. Spielberg felt betrayed that his original vision had been abandoned completely. He threatened to publicly disavow the film unless his credit was removed. This created a contractual nightmare. Spielberg's executive producer deal legally required his name to appear in the credits. Columbia couldn't remove it without a formal written release, and Spielberg's representatives were drafting disassociation statements. The negotiation that saved the relationship involved data. Columbia showed Spielberg test screening results where audiences rated the comedy version significantly higher than focus groups had rated his original serious concept. The numbers proved Sonnenfeld's approach was more commercially viable. Spielberg agreed to keep his credit, but demanded it be minimized to the smallest contractually permissible size and placed late in the credits rather than prominently. If you watch closely, his executive producer acknowledgement appears very briefly. When Men in Black earned $589 million worldwide, Spielberg admitted he'd misjudged the material entirely, and he later stated publicly that Sonnenfeld understood the project better than I did, and that his ego had almost cost him association with a cultural phenomenon. Fact 14. The post office scene was filmed in an active location with real customers. The sequence where Agent J discovers aliens working ordinary jobs was filmed in a functioning United States Postal Service location in Manhattan, with real customers who had no idea they were appearing in a major motion picture. Columbia obtained permission from the Postal Service to film during business hours. Small cameras were hidden throughout the building disguised as security equipment. The alien makeup effects were designed to look ambiguous enough that real customers might assume they were encountering oddly dressed postal workers rather than movie creatures. And several customers noticed the makeup and asked if it was Halloween. Others complained to management about inappropriate employee costumes. One elderly woman became genuinely frightened by an alien effect and had to be calmed by staff who finally revealed the film production. This created serious legal problems. Filming real people without explicit consent violated privacy laws. The production needed every visible person to sign release forms retroactively. Tracking down dozens of random postal customers proved nearly impossible. Columbia hired private investigators to identify people captured in the footage using security camera timestamps and transaction records. Over 100 people were contacted. E-47 refused to sign releases and had to be digitally removed or obscured in post-production at a cost of $367,000. The authentic reactions that made the scene effective created a legal nightmare lasting months after production wrapped. Fact 15. Tony Shalhoub's character was expanded. After one scene got the biggest laugh. Tony Shalhoub's Jack Jeebs was written as a single-scene character who appeared briefly and was never referenced again. During test screenings, the moment where Jeebs' head explodes and regenerates received the largest laugh in the entire film, bigger than any Will Smith improvisation or carefully crafted joke. Columbia executives immediately demanded the character be expanded. The screenwriter Ed Solomon had 1 week to create additional Jeebs scenes and integrate them into the existing narrative without disrupting the story's structure. Shalhoub was already committed to another project and had only 3 days available before leaving the country for 4 months. The production had to film all additional material in a compressed 72-hour window. Rick Baker's effects team built 3 additional exploding head prosthetics in 48 hours. Shalhoub worked 14-hour days for 3 consecutive days. The new scenes were written, filmed, and edited in 11 days total. The expansion cost approximately $480,000. Jeebs became one of the film's most beloved characters despite minimal screen time. When the sequel was greenlit, and he was immediately written in as a returning presence. A throwaway one-scene role became a franchise character entirely because test audiences laughed harder at his head exploding than at anything else in the movie. Fact 16. The entire climax was rewritten and reshot after test audiences hated it. The ending audiences saw in theaters bears no resemblance to what was originally filmed. The first version featured the bug battle taking place underground in subway tunnels, with Agent K being killed rather than swallowed, and Agent J defeating the creature by flooding the tunnels with water. Test audiences despised it. Comment cards called the climax claustrophobic, confusing, and deeply unsatisfying. Viewers wanted to see the bug's full form in an open space. They wanted K rescued, not dead. They wanted a triumphant victory, or not J simply drowning a monster underground. Columbia panicked. The film was scheduled for release in 8 weeks. Screenwriter Ed Solomon had 72 hours to create an entirely new ending. He conceived the observatory setting, the galaxy hidden on Orion's collar, and K being regurgitated alive. The rewrite was approved immediately. The production nightmare that followed required building new sets, creating new visual effects, and reassembling the entire cast and crew for 3 weeks of additional filming, all 6 weeks before the release date. Industrial Light and Magic assigned over 150 effects artists to work continuously without sleep. The new climax was completed 9 days before the premiere. Test audiences rated the replacement ending 62% higher than the original, and the reshoot added $18.3 million to the budget. The ending that defined the film was created in pure desperation. Fact 17. Will Smith's suit was partially CGI because he refused to wear the costume. Approximately 30% of Will Smith's black suit in the finished film is computer-generated because he refused to continue wearing the actual costume after 2 days of filming. The suit was constructed from heavy wool that looked perfect on camera, but became unbearable under studio lights. Smith sweated so profusely that makeup couldn't keep pace. He was drenched within 30 minutes of filming, requiring constant costume changes that slowed production significantly. Smith told costume designer Mary Vogt he wouldn't continue wearing the wool suit. The production offered lighter fabric alternatives, but none photographed correctly. The visual texture was wrong. The compromise required digital intervention. Smith would wear a comfortable cotton suit on set, and Industrial Light and Magic would digitally replace it with proper heavy wool texture in post-production. This meant tracking hundreds of shots and painting the correct suit over Smith's actual clothing frame by frame. The digital suit replacement added $2.7 million to the effects budget. ILM had to create digital fabric that moved realistically with Smith's body, responded to lighting correctly, and matched Tommy Lee Jones's practical suit in shared shots. Smith's constant improvisation and physical comedy made him move unpredictably, creating additional technical challenges. Effects artists spent thousands of hours on rotoscoping and compositing, and the suit that appears seamless on screen was one of the film's most expensive in visual effects. Fact 18. The galaxy on Orion's belt was added 3 days before the film locked. The central mystery's solution, the galaxy hidden on a cat's collar, didn't exist in the original script and wasn't filmed during principal photography. The first version featured a completely different resolution involving a concealed spacecraft. Test audiences found it confusing and anticlimactic. 3 days before the film had to be locked for release prints, Sonnenfeld, Solomon, and producer Walter Parkes were still trying to fix the ending. Parkes suggested the galaxy should be something small and overlooked. Solomon pitched the cat collar idea. Sonnenfeld loved it immediately, but they had never filmed anything supporting this solution. Industrial Light and Magic had 72 hours to create the shot of the galaxy on the collar, the shot of Orion wearing the collar in the morgue, and seamlessly integrate these shots into existing footage. Over 40 effects artists worked without sleep to meet the deadline. The cat used in earlier scenes wasn't available, so ILM had to digitally add the galaxy collar to archived footage. They also created a digital cat for certain shots where the original timing didn't work. The film's negative had to be delivered to processing labs in exactly 72 hours, or the release date would slip, costing millions in marketing. The galaxy shots were completed with 6 hours to spare. The film was locked minutes before the absolute deadline. The twist that made the ending satisfying was conceived and executed in 3 panic-filled days. For fact 19, the film's iconic theme song was created in 17 hours. The original Men in Black theme was an orchestral composition by Danny Elfman that Columbia executives rejected as too serious for a comedy. They demanded a hip-hop song featuring Will Smith to capitalize on his music career. RCA Records initially declined, saying there wasn't sufficient time before release. Producers were given 4 weeks to deliver. They completed a song in 3 weeks, submitted it, and RCA executives rejected it as insufficiently commercial. This happened 6 days before the film's release date. Will Smith, composer Patrice Rushen, and producer Polk flew to New York and locked themselves in a recording studio for a single marathon session. They wrote the Men in Black theme in approximately 4 hours, recorded it in 6 hours, and mixed it in 7 hours. The song was delivered 2 days before the deadline. Working from exhaustion, Smith incorporated actual dialogue from the film into the lyrics, creating a meta-commentary where Agent J essentially raps about being in Men in Black. This wasn't planned. It was improvisation born from time pressure and sleep deprivation. The song reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and sold over 2.7 million copies. The 4-hour emergency replacement became more successful than anything the planned approach could have produced. Fact 20. Tommy Lee Jones's deadpan delivery was partially due to dental surgery. Tommy Lee Jones underwent emergency dental surgery during the second week of filming after breaking a molar on craft services food. The procedure required extensive work on his jaw, leaving him in significant pain and limiting his facial mobility for weeks. Jones's characteristically stiff, emotionless Agent K delivery wasn't entirely acting. His face genuinely hurt when he attempted expressions, so he minimized facial movement instinctively. The deadpan quality that became K's signature was partially Tommy Lee Jones managing dental pain while trying to perform. Jones was also taking prescription pain medication that made him drowsy and flat. His slightly vacant stare and deliberate speech pattern in many scenes came from being medicated during filming. Sonnenfeld didn't realize how much Jones was struggling until he noticed him grimacing between takes. The studio wanted to delay production until Jones recovered fully. Jones refused, arguing the pause would cost millions. Instead, the production modified his dialogue to require less mouth movement and reframed shots to conceal facial swelling. The robotic precision and minimal expression that defined Agent K came partly from an actor in genuine physical discomfort, trying to hide his limitations. After the film's success, Jones admitted the dental issues accidentally improved my performance. performance by forcing absolute economy of expression. The character trait everyone remembers was partially a medical necessity disguised as an acting choice. Men in Black wasn't built, it was salvaged. Every iconic element emerged from crisis management rather than creative vision. The casting was an emergency replacement. The villain was a last-minute redesign. The ending was conceived in 72 hours of panic. The theme song was recorded in a single sleepless session. And even the lead actor's suit was partially fake because he refused to wear the real one. And yet none of it feels accidental when you watch the finished film. That's the strange alchemy of filmmaking.